So I said I have a weekly pair average PEEP that I look out for when I'm taking a trade, especially when the lowest bearish candle or the highest bullish candle is very small. In this case of EU, something like that is happening here. So first of all, I use my fractal to the left. If you can see this fractal here. So, but if I was to use that fractal, it's showing me that my average PEEP is not being met, and I don't want the case that price come and doesn't take me. So definitely my average PEEP on EU is about 30 pips on any trade. From 25 above, that's the average. So taking this trade, where will I be setting my, this is my stop loss, this is the FIB setting, this is my stop loss. So where will I be setting my TP? So if you go into the weekly trades now, or let's say daily first, if you go to the daily, you can see that the fractal you can see here is this fractal above. So this is where I position my take profit. You can see this fractal here. So I'll just bring it out using a rectangle. So if you guys should know, the fractals are not fixed, but when you've gone through your back test, you can know average for the TPs are not fixed. So when you've done a lot of back tests, you can see the average TP that you can use by each setup and see, okay, what works. So if you can go over your TPs and see that, okay, it's like 1:4 work comes a lot, or 1:3, or whatever the case is, depending on the setup, you can settle for that as well. So, but this is what I use. I use fractal. So if you look at this is a fractal here. And when I go to the weekly, I can see where this fractal is located here. So first of all, this fractal on daily, this is the next fractal I'm seeing. On weekly, I can see this fractal here. So I just take the closest fractal as my first TP. So the closest fractal as my first TP, and I zoom out, you can see that above here, this is another fractal here, and this is another fractal here. So being that if I take this trade and this fractal is within my TP8 or TP7, I'm comfortable with that. Over backtest, I know that this is easy to achieve. Once price break through this fractal, I know that it's very easy to get me here. So as much as I want to hold trade for a long period, I want to still be able to leave the trade as early as possible. So if I go to 4 hours, I've already showed you how I place my TP. You can see the red line here. So I'm definitely taking TP4 and taking next fractal on weekly at the fractal up there. I'm also taking TP8. So that's how I take the trade, and it hits my stop loss. It hit my stop loss, and it gave me another entry over here. I've closed the trade here in this account because I want to make withdrawal from this. This is a rapid account, so I made withdrawal from it today. I'm waiting for the withdrawal to come in. And this was the lowest bearish candle, right? If we zoom in, you can see that this was the lowest bearish candle, and price closed above it on this candle. This candle closed above it, this candle, same thing. This was the retest. So when the close above happened here, I take my FIB and also do the same thing. So this, I'll definitely be putting it on the fractal, because if you look at the average, is already bigger than the average, right? This is about 31 pips. So I'm putting it on top of the fractal, and you see that price just came back. The close above wasn't even huge. So I expect price to come retest fractal before going up, and put my TPs at same place I did first. trade, and on my other account, I'm currently on this trade, still waiting. So I'll go over to the next trade. I had a trade on AU as well. The trade is still running. I had this was the first trade. I went to hit my stop loss. So same thing, if I go to daily or weekly, so I can't see much on daily. When I go to weekly, you can see very clearly that this is the next factor. So if I took that trade, I'll be looking to come here, right? So this is my target, and price hit my stop loss and brought me back here. This stop loss and this, now this was the close above the next trade. This was the lowest bearish candle in the black. Price came, close above it, gave us a white, but the close above has already happened. So I fib, do my fib and wait for setup to occur as well, right? So if I go to the daily or weekly, we already have, this is my TP target, this is where I'm targeting, right? So that's it. It's very clear, very obvious. So still in this trade in the other account, because currently the trade is still running. So I have another trade on NZDJPY, a good one. I took it, was it yesterday? Yes, probably yesterday. Yeah, I did for yesterday. It's still running. So did the fib as well. Range of the candle, daily and weekly. Okay, so now you can see that, okay, this is the closest factor already on weekly, and I can't see further unless I zoom out, right? I can't see further unless I zoom out to this factor, right? But this is the closest, so I'll zoom in, and on daily, it's even more clearer. So I have this entry here. So on daily, I took my first TP at TP4, and I'm waiting for price to go. I'm waiting for price to go above this fractal for me to continue the ride, right? So this trade right now, I'm trying to trail the profit, because I'm going above. If I use the weekly, this is where my fractal is, very far. And my first tip is already on TP4, so I trail this particular one. I've already moved my stop loss to break even, and see that because price has already, if I take this off, you can see clearly that on the weekly, price has closed this fractal, telling us there's a continuation to the buy side, right? So because of this close, and you see that price has come and retest the close of all these fractals with price. So it retested this, give us a trade, and currently going up. So definitely holding this trade for long run. So the next trade I'm having is, I had GBP card. Okay, no, I didn't have GBP card. All the GBP, JPY pairs actually have, yeah, they gave me a lot of trade. JPY pairs here. This was the close above GBP, JPY. Took this trade as well. And should still be in this trade as well. This was the close above. This was the retest, and keeps going up. And if you zoom to the weekly, you could see factor above. So I'm looking forward to this factor, but still trailing. So I use my fractal, the receiving factor on the higher time frame, as profit target, because price always attracts, and fractal always attract price to itself. So I use it as my profit target. EJ gave us trade as well. This was the close above. This was the retest. For price didn't pick me. My retest was around here, because the difference was large. was above my average. My average on 4 hours. My average on 4 hours was around 49.50 on EJ. So it was above, and pricing come back to pick me. Had a trade on Chef JPY, right? Okay, so Chef JPY, the trade is still going. I've closed my trade, and this is the second time I'm taking profit on Chef JPY because I'm not seeing any receiving fractal on the higher time frame. This was my first trade. This was my first trade on Chef JPY. You can see the close above and you see the retest. So after this retest, I fib, and this was my profit target. Price came here, I closed the trade, and the price continued going up, right? So price come to this place again, close above, give me a retest. This was the only factor I can see, both weekly, daily, weekly, and monthly. So there was price, seems price has never gotten to this region before on Chef JPY. So I didn't just risk holding it because I don't know where I'm holding it to. So this was my profit return. I fib, retest, and I took this trade out. So, and CAD JPY had a trade there, but price didn't pick me. You can see that there's still a limit order here. Price didn't pick me. GBP Chef gave us a trade today, and this was the trade, right? This was the trade here. Price came back, retested, and the trade is still running. And we had, yeah, these are the few trades that we've had this week. Yes, and we had like about 2 trades or 3 today. 2 trades today. We had CAD Chef. CAD Chef is another trade that we had today. This was the close above, right? Yeah, this was it. This was it. This was the first entry, but pricing close above it, right? This was the second entry, price close above. I took my fib, then price came back, and I'm still in this trade in my other account, but still waiting to see what happens, right? So this is how I take my trade. And if you look on the 4 hours, average TP here is about, average P is about 18. 18 is my average P on CAD Chef. Because CAD Chef we usually have small pips difference. So 18 is what I use on my back test. So that's 18. And if you look daily or weekly, definitely see this is a fractal very close. So I took my TP on this fractal, first TP on this fractal, and this is the second fractal. Already holding a trade here to see when the trade gets here. There might be a rejection because price always react to fractal or it goes above, but here is where I want to take my second TP and leave the trade. So I'm still waiting for price to close above this fractal to tell me that there's a continuation in this trend, which is very, very important because you can see now that there is a whole lot of rejection around this area, but price just closed above all this fractal today. So I'm saying, I'm looking at hoping that price is still pushing to go up. So why I said we'll look at the weekly and the daily trend. If you look at CAD Chef, you can see on the daily, or rather weekly, you can see that there is a setup here on the weekly, right? If you use fractal to fractal, you can, while you're riding the buy, right? While you're riding the buy on this scenario, you'll be waiting for price to reject from this fractal so that you can continue with the sell. So it's either they're riding the buy in the hope that price will come here, pick you up and reject for the sell. So while you're still holding on to the buy, you're expecting that price rejects for the and give you a sell. Let's even have another trade on NZD-JPY as well. This is a trade, so my order is here on the weekly. I'm expecting that price come up here, pick me, and we continue going. And you know, ACAD, yeah, I have another on ACAD waiting for a retest. This is a weekly, waiting for a retest so that I can use this take this trade and continue the trend, because on the weekly we're in a buy trend. On the H4 we're selling, and daily we're selling. So if you see that there was a trade on this place, I was kind of late. I didn't put my order here. It was after the trade I saw it. So I was expecting that maybe price will come and retest again, but price just came here, take the retest and went down. Although I've rode this trend before, this was the first setup. I rode the setup downward before to this factor, but this came up here, retested, but I didn't take the trade because I wasn't looking enough. So that's why the strategy, it demands, like, it also demands from you. You need to be aware on every day. You need to look your chart every day. At the end of every day, like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, you want to know the trades on both daily, weekly, and H4 to, okay, so that you can easily catch a reversal, right? The trend, you can easily have a continuation with your H4 and like that. So most my TPs are structured around fractals, around the weekly and the daily fractals, because I expect that price rejects where they are fractals. Okay, so I don't know if anybody has a question. Do we have any question? Do we have any question, or are we sleeping?
It seems that people don't have questions. No wala. Any person that has questions, they will message you. All of you, every person that is teaching, we are welcoming you to the club of people that they will be asking questions. So as you just finish teaching, just be expecting plenty. You start getting plenty of DM, and they will be asking you questions on one thing or the other. So,
Yes.
all right. So please put a 555 in the chat box for Daniel. I think there's a 555 in the, to
There's a
appreciate him.
question on the on the
Okay,
chat.
so I was asking, can we see your fifth sentence,
Yeah.
please?
So these are the fib settings. It's also the settings that we have in Simply Pips.
So Dan,
Yes, sir.
thank you very much. So I didn't came up early in the last class. So does that mean that you are trading both the trend and the counter trend?
Yes, because if you look at the way the setups are structured on the higher time frame, right? The time we are seeing a buy on the 4 hours, on the daily and the weekly, it's showing you that there's a potential rejection, right? So you want to be able to hold price to that rejection and go out of the trade early enough so that you can also ride the weekly and daily before the 4 hours starts colliding with the higher time frame structure.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Basically, what he's saying is just like with what I did for the dashboard, you can go to multiple time frames and see that the trend on the various time frame are different. So, for instance, there was a time sometime last month where dollar was bearish on the weekly, but it was bullish on the daily, and then of course H4 switches up and down. So you can be trading the bias on each of those time frames. So you don't necessarily need to wait for all the time frames to be giving you the same trend for you to trade. So you can trade according to the particular time frame you are
Yeah.
watching pattern.
Yeah. And I also want you to keep in mind that this is when you're holding a trade on a 4 hours, right? Let me say you're in a trade. Let me look for a kind of trade like that. Let's say EU. We had a sell previously on EU. So previously on EU, we had a sell, right? And every other dollar USD pair was selling heavily. because on GU, NZDU, AUD, USD, they were actually in a sell trend. But if you look at here, let me put a vertical line here or horizontal line here and here, right? In this place, if you go to the daily, you see that, okay, we were selling. On the weekly, we're in a green, right? We're in a green. So just like what I said, once I am in this kind of scenario that I know that both the weekly and the daily, the 4 hours time frame and the weekly time frame are not in the same bias, what I do is that when I take trade on the 4 hours, right, I want to see the closest TP level that I could get out of that trade. Although on the weekly, there was a good roadmap. If I was taking trade here, this was my TP level, right? Because this is another setup I'm expecting. And you see that price just came up, came close to my entry and reversed. Right, came very close to my entry and reversed. It went back up. So I want to be in this, I want to be quick in taking my TP because on a weekly, I'm actually riding against the trend. So well, I wait, and if you see this place, this was the close below. I'm not sure I had an entry here. I'm not sure I had one either here. So this was the only trade I had. Yeah, this was the only trade I had. And price just come here, gave me a retest and went back to this factor. So definitely, you know that I'm taking TP on this factor, right? Because this is a visible factor that's coming from afar. And on daily, it will always give you a reason that this is a factor that you want to take your trade out of as early as possible. So when you have that kind of bias, because if you notice something, when it's green on, when it's black on the day, on the weekly, it's actually red on daily, right? The 4 hours just changes on its own. So you want to be able to know the overall trend. So when you're not following with the overall trend, you want to go out of the market as early as possible. But when you are in the overall trend, you just want to hold the trade as they go, as far as they go. But you need to also have a profit target in your eyesight. If you are targeting this factor, okay, this should be the factor you're targeting. If you're targeting this factor, this should be the factor you're targeting. So, and secondly, the backtest help you. You need to be able to take as many trades using this system. For those persons that already started trying to take the trade, as you are backtesting, continue taking the trade, keep taking the trade, keep gathering data. So when you've been able to do that for a while, and you get used to, okay, these are trades I want to hold. You get used to the strategy, and you start saying, okay, why are taking TPs early and why are holding some trade for a long period of time? Okay, because I had as many entries, I've had entries over here, you can see, and this is in line with the higher time frame trend. So definitely I can say, okay, I'm holding this trade till I get to the weekly factor on the higher time frame. So you see that you have more reasons to hold this trade for a longer period of time than holding these sell trades. So all this you need to put into consideration as well.
Let me ask this question again. So I don't know if you've applied this value line to different brokers, because I'm curious to know if the formation of those candles affects the way those value lines are going to interpret, or they're not working with candles. I just want to know, sure.
Okay, value lines are actually working with candles, right? But in some scenarios, if I'm trading my demo account on HFM, there sometimes I get this black, right, or this white, and over there, there's nothing. So I just stick to the broker that I'm actually I stick to HFM MFF broker, because that's where I did my back test and that's where I execute my trade. So I just stick to them because most times on HFM you might see some overnight on MFF broker, you see some overnight, just like what happened today, overnight, what do you call it, spread, that the price just come down and go back again. But on HFM is not there. So, and I want to be able to get that week so that in case price just say, okay, I want to revisit that level, that place that has already been printed. If it's not on HFM, I might take a loss. But because it's on MFF, I've been able to use that to structure my stop loss as well.
Okay, so that means during our own backtest, while backtesting this strategy, we might have a very, or let me say, we might have a different experience depending on the brokers we use, right?
Yes, definitely we'll have different, let me say, is a slightly different experience. Let me not say experience, rather, slightly different output in terms of the numbers of trade, because there might be some places where I have a trade and some places where you don't have. But if you do the back test, right, we can as well meet up and look over your back test and just review, and we'll go from there.
Except you are going to be trading crazy pairs. When I mean crazy pairs, you want to go and start trading MXN and all the rest. Most times the differences you have, except during times like late December, early January, where liquidity is really, really very low, is going to be 1 pip, 2 pips difference. And from my own experience, the difference it makes is not usually that the value line itself is not usually that much, and thus the difference it will make to your output is not that much. Why you want to really pay attention to that, like Daniel mentioned, is the placement of your SL. So if you are not going to be using a copier, that's where you send your, this is for who are trading multiple accounts. So there are 2 different ways to use copiers. One is you send the SL immediately to the other broker. So for instance, I trade just on Hugo's Way. I use a Hugo's Way MT4 to trade, and it copies to some other demo accounts that are copied to the MFF accounts that I'm trading and all that. Just forget about it. But the main thing is I'm trading just a Hugo's Way account. Now, I can decide to say, see, copier, when I take this trade, take the SLI, put here on Hugo's Way and send it to MFF. And MFF, you place exactly the same SL there. And also you could tell this software, don't copy the SL. In other words, anytime you see that the trade on this particular, this empty farm trading has closed, close it in MFF. So if you are using something like that, you might not need to bother about the differences, the 2 pip differences, 1 pip differences, and all that, and stuff like that, because only when the main broker you are trading with, the SL is hit, that it will close on MFF, regardless of whatever MFF is doing with their own price spreads and all that. For instance, let me give you an illustration. Today on EG, my entry on EG, if I was using my normal Hugo's Way, was 3 pips, or sorry, 5 pipettes. This is EG, so it's usually small. 5 pipettes higher than what it should have been on MFF. So if I was in MFF, my entry would have been 5 pipettes lower. I should have placed the 5 pipettes lower. So things like that happen. The more illiquid you are trading. So when you start trading things like CAD Chef, NZD Chef, those currencies that are not very liquid, the variations begin to occur more. But if you are trading things like EU, GU, EG, and all those things, the variations are so slight that it virtually makes no difference. So for the backtesting experience, I don't think it should have too much differences like that.
Thank you.
There's someone that muted themselves. I don't know who the person is. User, as your username. I want to ask a question so that we can wrap up.
So any more questions? We can just wrap up.
Any other questions?
I doubt if we have any. Let's appreciate Daniel. Daniel has done very wonderfully.
Anne, sorry, someone asked a question. Anne, the 10 p.m. is basically market close. So most in Nigeria time, market closes around 10 p.m. So just figure out what that time is for you. It's basically whenever the market closes. So at the end of the day, you just come back and check.
Yeah. So I trade a strategy similar to what Dan is trading. And there's an indicator I use. I'll show the indicator. I think I've shown before, and then
excuse me, sir. Do you want this to be part of the recordings?
Yeah, no problem. So let's see if I can share my screen here. All right, so Daniel has already sent the templates. Those of you that went through the binary class to have the template. So what we have here is another EA or indicator. This indicator is called FCT discount. In it, you can put the value of your bigger TDN and then your discount TDN. So I have like 24, 23, depending on whatever I want. Then you have 81. All these other things are immaterial. A number of bars just so you can see the past. What is important here is that you should have a VPS or your system should be such that can be on all of the time. So I use push notifications, true. Right, so push notifications, true. And then you OK this. What it does is that it doesn't do so much yet. I believe Prof later on might help us do some work on it. Let me bring some of these things to the front. It seems those indicators are hiding. Charts on foreground off. Yeah, so the black dot and white dot are showing now. So what this does is that you're in a bullish move, right? Once your black TDN shows up, at the very next candle, you get an alert. And that alert will come to your MT4 straight, telling you that, hey, something just happened. Right, let me see if I can send a screen grab of what I mean. Let me see if I can send that to you. So if it's going to be of any help, that would be good. I think what I have had the person that coded it for me didn't do some things very, very well. Let me share the whole screen so it becomes easier for me to. Okay, so you can see this. It just tells me I have and it comes every 4 hours, just like Daniel said, right? So this one, this strategy is similar to what Daniel trades, but notice the time 10, it comes like that and tells me something is happening. 10, 2, like that. So I know. But the issue with this is that everything tells me discount, 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 discount. That's what it's telling me. Some of them could be premium and some discount. So I have to physically go to the chart to know if this is actually a buy or a sell, because it's just telling me that everything is a buy. Prof has done a modification, so I'll seek his permission. If Prof wasn't the one that coded this one, so if he grants me the permission to share what he coded with you guys, then you can have it. So I have to ask him to help me code one. So I don't necessarily come to my charts every time for the 4 hours. You know, the weekly, you come at the end of the week, you know your bias and move. So for the 4 hours, I don't necessarily come to my chart all of the time. If I see this and I get an alert, then in my book, I just put AED and ZD. So when I'm coming back every 4 hours, I know exactly what I'm coming, with which pair I'm coming to face, right? Look at this one again. So at the next candle after the black dot, it shows. Let's pick up another pair. Somebody give me a pair. Let's see EJ. So you can now apply every other principle. So here, you've been trading EJ for a while. Once your discount happens, at the very next candle, you get an alert. So EJ comes into your radar, right? I know Prof can easily just modify this for us. And therefore, what happens is beyond this, we now get an alert when price closes above the last bearish or bullish candle, as the case may be. You know, so in that case, for now, what happens is it just gives you an alert. So if you are monitoring, say 10 pairs, 15 pairs, you don't need to go through each of them every 4 hours. You know exactly which pair to come to at the end of a 4-hour window. If we're able to do it so that it gives us an alert after this close, then it means we can even omit coming back every 4 hours and then just come exactly the 4 hours after a close has happened. I know that can be done, and they'll begin to look for reasons to trade. Again, the idea, like Daniel said, you need to be structured to come back every 4 hours and the like. So if your lifestyle is such that that cannot happen, then this indicator might just be of help to you. So this is for a bearish scenario, right? Immediately we got that bullish showing us that we're going into a premium. At the close of that candle, this comes up. You begin to monitor every 4 hours for a close below. So assuming Prof will help us code, then it means we would have gotten, it will only be coming back to the chart after we get this close below, and then any other, you can do any other thing manually. So I think we should call it a wrap for today. Again, we want to thank Dan for taking out time to show hours and hours of work that he's putting, and he shared it to us freely in the spirit of Simply Pips. When he buys his big computers, we'll wash it for us.
Okay.
You just told us now you place a withdrawal. So I will ask Mr. Olatunde, Mr. Adeyoju, and Emmanuel to send the account number to collect offering for us. So, okay, Juliana is actually here too. She will send her account number. So just in the spirit of oneness, credit them with $2,000. Well,
One is 1,000.
How much do
Please,
Nigeria?
I will send my own too. I will send my own too.
all right. So, Prof, any parting words? Tomorrow will be very brief. Because tomorrow will be brief because Daniel has already done
the review of his own trade.
Yeah, he has given us his own trade. So Prof will be giving us what happened. I will look, yeah. I will look at maybe one other pair on the scalping, then the weekly trades, how it played out. Now there was something I wanted to say in the recording. Unfortunately, we stopped it. But here, I have to say this here for everybody to grab.
We're still recording though.
Really? Now, for every strategy that I have learned, either from my mentor or somebody else I feel I should adopt, I notice something. Immediately I start trading that strategy. Well, not immediately. For many of them, immediately. Some, maybe a week later, I will have back-to-back stop losses. And that is because most of the times, when the people come out, you know, verbously, so many words to say the strategy is doing well, it is like an extended trend. Let's say you're trading a trend following strategy and you're in a group and your mentor is talking about the strategy, you just taught it casually. Then one particular week, it starts making a lot of noise. If you check, it will be that week, maybe the trend has been strong for like 2 weeks and back to back TPs are being hit. You now decide to follow the strategy or imbibe that strategy. There's every likelihood that at about that time, the trend is waning or relaxing. And therefore, there will be change in direction. And that change in direction might mean that while you are still trying to, let's say in this case, buy, the trend is now changing to a sell. If you give up because you've had 2 or 3 back-to-back losses, if the sell happens to be an extended trend for another 2 weeks, you won't be there. Right? So like Dan said, the most important thing is take the trades, even if you don't take the trades. Let's say you are somebody who lacks in the capacity to monitor several pairs or trade several pairs simultaneously, like he is doing. You might just narrow down on 6 because these setups won't come up all of the time. But you still want to keep a journal of, let's say, 10, 12 pairs. So meaning that you can come at the end of the week and say, okay, if I had taken this is what I would have done. If I had taken this is what I would have done. Meanwhile, you focus on the ones you want to trade. What it does is that it helps you to see what happens when the trend is about to change. And you are able to accept that there will be some losses. So I'm saying this from experience, and I know it's going to be a help for some of you. Whichever strategy, once you pick it up, most times, if you are picking it up around the time when the trend is going to change, it will whoop you once or twice or even more. It is our own duty as traders to understand that that is what the market will do when it wants to change a trend. And if we are trading a trend following strategy, once in a while, when it wants to change a trend, it will happen. So Daniel showed us, I think in day 1, regions. I think he said he will be taking that when we are looking at the strategy, maybe the next time I want to look at the second part of the strategy. If you enter a region where the market is ranging seriously, it's seriously ranging. If you are trading a strictly trend following strategy, you might not have massive TPs. You might be having TPs that just cut you off short and then market pulls back straight to your entry, takes you out, then gives another one, cut you off short. What do? Will you discard the strategy around that period? Or will you stick to the data you have been able to gather? So that's my parting words. Prof, anyone, you call it a wrap.
Not